Hi guys, it's Caroline, and today I'm going to be talking through my 2021 TBR. Now, every single year I pick 10 books or series that I want to read in that year. I learned my lesson because in 2019 I picked both the Shadowhunter series and the Throne of Glass series, both of which are like very long, and I learned my lesson, so I've kept it down to shorter series that are finished, and I only have 3 series. So in total it's 17 books. Last year I think I got to 12 of the 16 I had for myself, and I'm hoping this year I can keep the trend or do better. First up is The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. Now this was on my 2020 and was one of the 4 that I didn't get around to. You'll notice a trend. The 4 that I didn't get around to are on this list, and they're all fat ones. I honestly have no idea what this is about. I do know it's well loved and it has something to do with like New York City and superheroes and comic strips, and it's just always really appealed to me. I've heard divisive things about it actually. It's well loved for the most part, but there are like, you know, your normal dissenters. My mom actually doesn't like this book particularly, but I'm really interested because I think that if I like this book, then I'm gonna try out this author's other works, but I want to read this one first, and I've been eyeing it for over a year now. Next up is The Ember in the Ashes. Now I'm waiting for book 4 to arrive in the mail, and I'm really excited to just marathon this series. I haven't read any of these books, but I've heard so much about them. Basically, I think it's like a Roman-inspired fantasy series, and I know that there's like fighting and war happening, but also the main characters, there's sort of a forbidden love. I try not to know too much about these books because I want to just like let it wash over me in all its glory, but I am really excited to pick this up. I've heard so many good things about both the writing and the romance, and I just think I'm really gonna love these. Also, I'm like so thankful that all my covers match, because this is one of those books that suffers from non-matching cover syndrome, and so I'm really glad that all of mine are going to match, unless the bookstore I got it from screwed me. No, maybe, knock on wood, maybe I just jinxed myself. Next up is another one from last year, and that is The Luminaries. Like I said, the ones that carried over were really fat ones. There's a lot of reasons why I'm interested in this. 1, my mom read it and loved it. 2, it is a Booker winner, and ever since I took a class on the Booker Prize, I've been really interested in what's been nominated. I always try to read as many nominations as possible and try to guess who wins the Booker now. So I want to read this. I believe that she's actually the youngest author to ever win a Booker, so I find that interesting. And then also it is a historical fiction. I just love older stuff like that, and I do love a long tale. It's just, you know, when am I going to get around to this? You know, that's the problem. So another carryover from last year, another huge one, and this is 4321. You know, this boy is big. And I think that it is a story, but like the same life told in 4 different ways. I don't want to know too much about the concept. I'm unclear if it's like he makes different decisions in each one and like how a decision might affect it, which I think is a cool concept, or if it's just like completely different. But my mom read this and she said that it like the different plot lines really like speak to one another, and that it's really interesting and thought-provoking. And her and I both love a long book that is kind of a character study, and this certainly has the vibe of, yep, this is a character study. And you know, like The Goldfinch, you know, The Goldfinch has some plot, but it's not like super duper plot heavy for how long it is. And so if I'm gonna read a really long non-fantasy, I do like when they delve into a character or characters. Then is a classic that I cannot believe that I haven't already read, and but I use the term classic, it's a modern classic, and that is The Shadow of the Wind. I can't believe I haven't read this. Like, everyone and their mother talks about how this book is amazing. It's on people's all-time favorites list just everywhere. And I don't know how I've been a reader for this long and not read this. My dad is constantly saying, oh, I love this book, I love this book. So I just need to get off my butt and read this one. I know I'm gonna love it. It's gonna be an all-time fave for me, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know why I haven't even had it on one of these lists before, because for so long I've been eyeing it. I should have been like, you know, pushing myself to read it sooner. Then, so for Christmas, my dad went crazy and got me the box set for Dune. I've put it on my list just to read the first one because these boys are dense, and you know, I have no idea how I'm gonna feel about this. I haven't read a ton of old school sci-fi. You know, I read current sci-fi, although I definitely steer towards fantasy more often, but I just haven't gone back and read the real classics of sci-fi, so I just have no idea. My dad really loves these books. They're some of his all-time favorites, and he reread Dune because he was like getting excited for the movie. Of course, then it gets pushed back. So I definitely want to read the first one at the very least this year. I'm not going to pressure myself to read all 6 of these because that's a lot. Like between the 6 of these, I think there's like 4,000 pages or something crazy like that, and you know, I don't need to overload on Dune, but if I do want to read the first one before I see the movie, and then I can decide how fast or how slowly I would like to carry on with this series. But I do have them, and this is like just point blank the best copies. First of all, these covers are so much better than any of the others. And then these are the versions, you'll notice, like based on size, are the tall floppy paperbacks rather than the short stubby ones. Or they actually have like the tall skinny ones too. So they've got like the short fat ones and then these really skinny extra tall ones. And these are just like your normal, but they're so floppy. And let's be honest, that is the superior like book paperback makeup. Okay, next up we have The Secret History, and again, I just don't know why it's taken me this long to get around to this. I read The Goldfinch in 2019, the summer of 2019, and I read it in like 3 days flat. I was flying home from where I was working in LA. I was on page like 100, and I just had a really bad layover, and I read like the entire final 600 pages of The Goldfinch in one day. But I just really appreciate Donna Tartt's writing, and because this is also a long book, I think that it's going to excel in a lot of the same ways The Goldfinch did, because I did love it, particularly for how she was able to show us these characters and let us live with them and just like see them grow up. I know this isn't like a Bildungsroman, or I don't think it goes through as much time as that one, but it does have a academia setting, and as someone who has just graduated from college and is sorely missing it, I think that this is going to be perfect for me. So the next series is A Discovery of Witches. Now, my mom read this a while back and just like swore up and down that this was for me. I think it deals with witches and vampires, and this is also an academia setting, and I think the witches and the vampires aren't really supposed to mingle, but there is a romance between a witch and a vampire, again in this like Oxford setting. And I just think that this is going to bring together a lot of the stuff I love. You know, the secret history type thing that also has just like good paranormal romance in an adult way, not in the cheesy YA way, which I think I've outgrown. And I've recently heard a lot of people talking about this, particularly because I think there's a show out. I don't know how many seasons in it is, but I am interested in watching the show, but of course I'd always read the books before I even started the show. Next up is The City of Stairs, and this entire trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett. I just think that I've heard Reagan from Peru's Project talking about this, and it just sounds so good. She describes it as like a geopolitical thriller set in a fantasy world. I think it's about 2 different like countries or worlds where one of them used to be ruled by gods and like used the power of the gods to conquer the other one, and then the gods left, and so the people who used to be the conquerors are now conquered. I think it seems really interesting. She also talks about how each book is kind of its own thing, like one might be more of a spy novel while one might be more of like a politic novel. I don't know. I just think that that's really interesting. I also want to read Foundry Side by this author, which really intrigues me, but I think I should go with a completed series before I start a unfinished series because I like to binge series. And then finally is actually the book that I'm reading because I'm really committed to trying to get all these books in, and that means I need to check off one of these boxes of a series or a book each month, basically. And so now I'm currently reading The Nyx, and this is from last year. Again, you can see it's a chunky boy. It has the thinnest pages. It looks like it's a 400-page book. No, it's 600 and something pages. And this is about a guy whose mother left him when he was quite young, just like up and left his family, him and his father, and he hasn't spoken to her since, until one day he's a professor and he gets a call, and apparently his mother has made the national news because she has thrown rocks at a very famous political conservative member. I don't know if he's currently a politician, but he is like looking to run for the president. And so it becomes this huge scandal. And he decides he's like in financial troubles. His publisher's pulling his contract, and he tells the publisher, actually, don't pull my contract. I'll write a like tell-all about like how scandalous my mom is. That's about where I'm at in this book. So literally I stopped. He's just about to like see her for the first time in 20 years. So I think it's very interesting. I'm really excited, particularly because we're in kind of like turbulent political times in America here. And I think it's like calming a little bit to read about something like this, where someone politically protesting and like throwing rocks at a politician is a lot more like on the level with the America that was like 5 years ago. And yeah, it's still turbulent, but like it's kind of turbulence that I can more easily process than like a literal coup. So I just think that this is going to be some good like escapism without like being fantasy level escapism. It'll still make me think, and I'll feel like politically engaged without all the stressors that comes with reading like an actual newspaper these days. Okay, those are the 10 books and series that I hope to read in 2021. Let me know down below any books that you're really looking forward to reading, or if you've read any of these books and you want to let me know if you like them or not.